Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Morris, and in this series, we'll be taking a deep dive into the mind of RFK Jr. It's no secret he has some weird ideas, from calling COVID an ethnic bioweapon to claiming HIV doesn't cause AIDS, but those are just pieces of the puzzle. I'm going to be putting that puzzle together so you can understand how crazy and dangerous he really is. What matters to Kennedy? His campaign website lists 4 priorities. If he actually cared about the bottom 3, he wouldn't be working for Donald Trump. So he's all about reversing the chronic disease epidemic. And when he says reverse, he really wants to go backwards. Kennedy thinks we were better off in the 60s when U.S. lifespans were 10 years shorter. But given that lifespans have been increasing in the U.S. for 150 years, it's hard to know what time in history he wants to make happen again. But to explain the so-called chronic disease epidemic, let's go back to a time when the average lifespan was about 40 years. In 1850, almost everyone died of acute infections. We didn't understand sanitation. We were so clueless about how infections spread that surgeons washed up after surgery like they were car mechanics. Over the next 50 years, cities improved sanitation. They introduced water treatment. Pasteur gave us the germ theory, so that by 1900, half of all the top 10 causes of death were chronic diseases. In the 20th century, sanitation continued to improve. Antibiotics were introduced. Use of vaccines expanded, and all of that made infections a minor cause of death. So today, most Americans die of chronic diseases. The primary reason for this is that we turned infections into a minor cause of death. And that meant people were living long enough to actually get chronic diseases, which typically start in your 50s. Kennedy seems to believe he's the only one who's noticed the rise in chronic disease. But the reality is that 90% of the NIH budget is already going to chronic disease. So somehow, Kennedy missed the memo. Next time, I'll be talking about this ridiculous report and the things that RFK is doing that will make chronic diseases worse in children and adults.